Right now, you are aware of this voice, but pause for a moment. Who is actually listening? Many of us have lived our whole lives believing there is someone inside us, watching, judging, managing every moment. We say, I am aware. I am the one observing. But what if that feeling has never been carefully questioned? In this video, I won't ask you to believe anything new. I won't ask you to change who you are. I only invite you to look very gently at your own experience, to notice something simple and possibly life-changing. What if the one you think is watching cannot actually be found? Welcome. You don't need to agree with what you hear today. You don't need to understand everything. Just listen, as you would listen to a quiet story shared with care. This is Son.Mindfulness, a space to slow down, reflect, and gently return to what is already here. Part 1. Breaking reality, you were never the one watching. Let me begin very simply. Right now, you are listening to this voice. You don't need to do anything special, you don't need to concentrate harder, you don't need to agree with me. Just notice this simple fact. There is a sound, and it is being heard. Now, pause with me for a moment. Who is hearing this voice? Don't answer yet. Just stay with the question. Most of us have lived our entire lives with an assumption so familiar that we've never questioned it. We assume there is someone inside, a watcher, a listener, a thinker, sitting quietly behind our eyes, observing the world go by. We say things like, I am watching television. I am listening to music. I am aware of my thoughts. It feels obvious, almost unquestionable. But I want to gently ask you something today, not as a philosopher, not as a teacher, but as a fellow human being who has spent many years watching his own mind. What if this assumption is never actually examined? I once spoke with a gentleman in his late 60s, a retired engineer, very sharp mind. He told me, I've read a lot of Buddhist books, but I still feel stuck. So I asked him one simple question. When you say I am aware, where exactly is this I? He laughed at first, then he went quiet. Because when we slow down enough to look, really look, something strange begins to happen. You can hear a sound, but can you find the hearer? You can see an image, but can you locate the seer? You can notice a thought arise, but where is the thinker hiding? This is not philosophy. This is an investigation. And it can feel unsettling at first. In psychology, we call this cognitive dissonance, that uncomfortable moment when something we've always believed no longer fits with what we are actually experiencing. The mind doesn't like it. It wants quick answers, solid ground. But today, I'm not here to give you answers. I'm here to invite you to look. Imagine this for a moment. You're sitting by a lake early in the morning. The water is still. A bird flies across the surface and ripples appear. Do you say the lake created the ripples? Or do you simply notice that when conditions come together, wind, movement, gravity, ripples happen? Now tell me, where is the lake watching the ripples from? Most of us live as if there is a little person inside our head, watching life the way we watch a movie. But no matter how closely we look, we never actually find that person. We only find experiences happening, sounds happening, sensations happening, thoughts happening, and yet, no central watcher. This can feel disorienting, even frightening. I want to be honest with you, I felt that fear myself when I first noticed this. The mind whispers, if there is no watcher, then who am I? That fear is very human, but stay with me. Notice how effortlessly hearing happens. You are not doing hearing, you are not managing it. Sounds simply arrive and are known. The same with seeing, the same with breathing, the same with thinking. Life is happening beautifully, intelligently, without a manager. And here is the quiet paradox I want to leave you with today. If there truly were a watcher inside, shouldn't you be able to find it? And if you cannot find it, what does that tell you? You don't need to answer this right now. In fact, it's better if you don't. Just carry the question with you today, like a gentle stone in your pocket. When experience is happening, is there really someone behind it, or only the happening itself? I'll leave you with that. Part 2. The dissection of the self. The onion of mind. Let's continue gently, and a little more honestly. In the first part, we didn't try to understand anything new. We simply noticed something unsettling. That while experience is happening, the one we assume is watching it is strangely hard to find. Now I want to take you a little closer. Not with ideas, but with careful looking. I often use a very simple image when I talk about the self. I call it the onion of the mind. An onion doesn't have a solid center. It's made of layers. And when you peel each layer away, what do you find in the middle? Nothing you can hold. Let's peel these layers together slowly and see what we actually find in our own experience. Start with the most obvious layer, your body. Right now there are sensations, maybe the pressure of the chair beneath you, the weight of your feet on the floor, perhaps a tightness in the shoulders, or a gentle ease in the breath. These sensations are very real, very immediate. But let me ask you something, very simply. You are aware of these sensations. So can these sensations be the one who is aware? If the body is being felt, can it be the feeler? Most of us say of course not, and we move on. But don't move too quickly. Many years ago, a woman I knew, she was in her 70s, told me I thought I was my body, until my body started changing faster than my sense of who I was. That moment shook her, because something in her felt unchanged even as the body aged. So we gently set this first layer aside. Now we come to the second layer. Feelings. Not emotions in a dramatic sense, just the simple tone of experience. Pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral. Maybe listening to this feels comforting, maybe it feels boring, maybe it feels somewhere in between. These feeling tones are always present, quietly coloring every moment. But again, you are aware of the pleasantness, aware of the discomfort, aware of the neutrality. So let me ask the same question again. If these feelings are noticed, can they be the one who notices? A man once told me, when I'm happy I feel like myself, when I'm anxious I feel lost. But if myself comes and goes with feelings, how solid could it be? Feelings change like weather, sometimes gentle, sometimes stormy, and yet something remains aware of them. So we set this layer down as well. Now we reach the third layer, the one most people mistake for who they are. Thoughts, the voice in the head, the stories, the memories, the opinions. You might hear it right now saying, this is interesting, or I don't know about this, or I've heard something like this before. Thoughts are persuasive. They speak in first person. They say I, me, and mine. And because of that, we rarely question them. But pause with me again. You can hear a thought, just as you hear a sound. It appears, it lingers, it fades. So let me ask, gently but clearly, if a thought can be heard, can it be the one who hears? I once spent years believing that my thoughts were me, and I suffered because of it. Because when thoughts turned dark or fearful, I believed I was dark and fearful. Only later did I realize thoughts were simply happening, no different from sounds or sensations. So if the body is not the self, if feelings are not the self, if thoughts are not the self, what's left? This is where many teachings stop. But we go one layer deeper. The fourth layer, the sense of knowing. This simple awareness that says, I know this is happening. This feels subtle, spacious, almost invisible. Many people stop here and say, this must be the real me, pure awareness, and I understand that. I truly do. But let me ask one last question, and I ask it with great respect. You are aware of this knowing. You can notice its presence, its stillness, its clarity. So tell me, if even this is noticed, Can it be the one who notices? This is where words begin to fail. And that's okay, because what we are discovering is not something new. We are discovering that everything we took to be me, body, feelings, thoughts, even awareness, is something that appears and disappears in experience, layer by layer, not because something is wrong, but because this is how life unfolds. Nothing stands alone. Everything arises because something else is already there. And when we stop trying to find a solid center, something very quiet begins to relax. I won't draw conclusions for you. I don't want to rush this. So I'll leave you with a question to carry gently into your day. If every layer of experience can be seen, then what, if anything, is left to call me? You don't need to answer. Just notice. Part 3. The direct experiment in the scene, only the scene now. Let's slow everything down. If you're watching this with music playing, imagine it gently fading. If images have been moving quickly, imagine them becoming still. And if my voice feels steady, let it become even slower. This part is different. Up to now, we've been talking about experience. Now we're going to step into it. I want to be very clear and very kind with you. There is nothing here to achieve, nothing to get right, nothing to fix. This is not meditation in the traditional sense. It's simply an experiment, a quiet one. So please, keep your eyes open. Don't change your posture. Don't control your breath. And most importantly, don't try. Just let yourself be exactly as you are. Right now, notice what you can see. Colors, shapes, light and shadow. There is seeing happening. Now notice what you can hear. My voice, perhaps a sound in the room, maybe something far away. There is hearing happening. And notice sensations in the body. The pressure of the chair, the weight of your hands, the gentle movement of breathing. All of this is already here. Now I'm going to ask you to do something very simple and very subtle. Don't look for the one who is seeing, just notice seeing. Don't search for a listener. Just notice hearing. And if a thought appears that says, I am doing this or I am watching, just notice that thought. The same way you notice a sound. Because here is something important to understand. The moment you start looking for the observer, that searching itself is just another thought. So don't search. Let experience be exactly as it is, seeing without a seer, hearing without a hearer, sensation without someone managing it. Now, let's pause together. I'm going to stop speaking for a moment. There will be no music, no guidance. Just this. Stay here. Nothing to do. Nothing to fix. If the mind says, this feels strange, notice that. If it says, nothing is happening, notice that. If it says, I don't get it, notice that too. All of that is welcome. Because none of it requires a watcher. Experience is unfolding by itself. Now, very gently, let my voice come back. I want to share something personal with you. The first time I truly rested here in simple experiencing without a center, it frightened me. I remember thinking, if there's no observer, then what am I? That question can feel like the ground disappearing beneath your feet. But something else happened too. There was a quiet relief. No one inside had to manage life anymore. No one had to judge the moment. No one had to hold it together. Life was simply living. Many people believe awareness requires an owner. But what you may have just glimpsed is this. Awareness doesn't belong to anyone. It doesn't need supervision. Seeing happens, hearing happens, knowing happens, effortlessly. This is why some people turn away at this point. It feels too unfamiliar, too ungraspable. And that's okay. Not everyone needs this kind of quiet. But for those of you who stayed, you may have felt something subtle shift, a softening, a widening, a sense that nothing was missing, even without a center. And I want to say this clearly, especially for those of you who have lived many decades, who have carried responsibility, identity, and self-image for so long. You are not being asked to give anything up. You are simply being invited to notice that life has been carrying itself all along. So I'll leave you with one gentle reflection to carry with you today. If seeing, hearing, and knowing are happening perfectly well on their own, what exactly have you been trying so hard to be? Let that question sit quietly with you. We'll continue from here. Part 4. The moment of collapse. The watcher can't survive observation. There comes a moment, quiet, almost unremarkable, when something simply doesn't hold together anymore. Not with drama, not with fireworks, just a gentle giving way. Up to now we haven't tried to remove the self, we haven't argued with it, we haven't tried to destroy it, we only looked. And that is the key thing I want you to understand here. The sense of me does not disappear because it is attacked. It dissolves because it cannot survive being honestly observed. This is where many people misunderstand what Buddhist wisdom is pointing to. They imagine no self as a belief, a philosophy, or even a spiritual achievement. But what actually happens is much simpler and much more human. You look for the watcher again and again, and you just don't find one. Not because it is hiding well, not because you are doing something wrong, but because there was never a separate watcher there to begin with. I want to slow this down because this moment matters. Notice how the mind works. When you hear, there is hearing. When you see, there is seeing. When you think, there is thinking. But the moment you try to locate the owner of these experiences, you only find another thought saying, I am the one. And when you look closely at that thought, it dissolves too. This is the collapse, not of a person, but of an assumption. Many years ago, when I first touched this understanding, I didn't feel enlightened. I felt ordinary, almost embarrassed. I remember thinking, that's it? I've been protecting something that isn't even there? There was a strange tenderness in that realization, a humility, and also relief. Because so much of our suffering comes from guarding an image, a self-image, that we assume must be defended, improved, justified. When that image is not found, the guarding stops. And now let me bring in a very short story. You may have heard it before. There was a man named Bahia. He spent years seeking truth, traveling, practicing, searching, and one day he met the Buddha and asked for a teaching. The Buddha did not give him a long discourse. He did not explain philosophy. He did not describe stages. He simply said, in essence, in seeing, just the seen. In hearing, just the heard. In sensing, just the sensed. In knowing, just the known. That was all. And Bahia understood, not because the teaching was short, but because he did not carry a listener with him. He didn't stand outside the experience trying to understand it. He stepped into it, fully. That is the part people often miss. Insight does not come from information. It comes from the absence of a center. The watcher cannot survive observation because observation itself leaves no room for it. Now, I want to be honest with you. This moment can feel like loss. Some people tell me it feels like I'm disappearing. Others say, it feels like something important is missing. That fear deserves respect. We have spent decades being someone, a parent, a professional, a good person, a spiritual seeker. So when the mind asks, if I'm not the watcher, then who am I? It can feel destabilizing, but notice something very important. Nothing actually disappears. Your ability to love does not disappear. Your memories do not disappear. Your personality does not disappear. Your responsibilities do not disappear. What disappears is the illusion of ownership. Life continues, just without the extra weight of someone standing apart from it. A man once told me, after sitting quietly with this inquiry, I thought I was losing myself. But what I actually lost was tension. That sentence stayed with me. Because when there is no watcher to protect, there is nothing to defend. And when there is nothing to defend, the heart softens. So I won't tell you there is no self. That would only be another idea. Instead, I'll ask you something much simpler and much closer to your own experience. When you truly look for the watcher, what do you actually find? And if you find nothing solid there, what finally collapses? I'll leave you with that question today. Not to answer, just to notice what no longer needs to be held together. Part 5. Ultimate Freedom Flow Without a Self. Now let me tell you something very important. Something that is often misunderstood. When the sense of a separate watcher softens, when the idea of a fixed me loosens its grip, what remains is not emptiness in the way people fear. It is not numbness, it is not detachment, it is not losing your humanity. In fact, it is quite the opposite. What remains is a life that finally moves without friction. Many people hear the idea of no self and imagine a blank space, a kind of spiritual disappearance. But that has never matched my experience, nor the experience of many people I've walked with over the years. What disappears is not life. What disappears is resistance. Let me explain. Have you ever been so absorbed in something you love? Gardening, painting, fixing something with your hands, playing music, or simply talking with someone you care about. That time seemed to vanish. You weren't thinking about yourself. You weren't monitoring how you looked or sounded. You weren't judging each moment. You were just there. Psychology has a name for this. They call it flow. But long before psychology named it, human beings already knew it. In those moments, there is no inner commentator saying, I am doing this well, or I hope I don't fail. There is just doing. Just responding. Just living. And notice something quietly beautiful. Your intelligence is at its highest in those moments. You move faster, you respond more accurately, you feel more alive. This is what freedom without a self looks like. Not chaos, but clarity. Not emptiness, but fullness. A woman once told me, the most loving moments of my life were the ones where I forgot myself completely. And she was right, because love does not need a defender. When there is no self-image to protect, love flows more naturally. You listen more deeply, you react less defensively, you don't need to win. You love without armor. And this doesn't just apply to relationships, it applies to work, to creativity, to everyday tasks. I've met people who found this freedom while caring for a sick spouse, others while writing, others while cooking dinner quietly at night. Not because they were trying to be spiritual, but because they were fully present. No observer standing apart, no self keeping score. Just life, meeting life. Now, I want to be clear, because honesty matters. This doesn't mean the sense of self never comes back. It does. We need it to function in the world, to sign documents, to make plans, to remember our name. Freedom is not about destroying the self. It's about not being trapped inside it. The self becomes a useful tool, not a constant burden. You pick it up when needed, and you set it down when it's not. That flexibility, that ease, is where peace lives. So here is the question I want to leave you with today. If your best moments in life have already happened without a strong sense of me, what would it be like to trust that way of being more often? You don't need to answer right now. Just notice how much effort you can finally let go of. Part 6. Closing. You don't need to destroy the self. Before we end, I want to leave you with something simple and kind. You don't need to fight the self. You don't need to erase it. You don't need to become someone else. The self was never your enemy. It is just a tool, a useful one, that stayed in your hands for too long. We needed it to survive, to raise families, to build careers, to navigate a complicated world. But somewhere along the way, we forgot something very human. Tools are meant to be put down. When the self is always active, always judging, always protecting, life becomes heavy. Not because life is wrong, but because we are carrying more than we need. Nothing we explored together today asked you to reject who you are. Nothing asked you to disappear. It simply invited you to notice this. There are moments when life flows better without a center. Moments when love is easier without defense. Moments when clarity appears without effort. Those moments are not rare. They are already part of your life, and they don't require belief, only noticing. So as we close, I won't give you instructions. I won't give you a practice. I'll leave you with a gentle invitation instead. If at any moment during this video you forgot yourself a little, if there was a second when you weren't sure who you were supposed to be, then something important already happened. And in that moment, nothing was missing. So let me leave you with these final words, spoken softly. You don't need to destroy the self. You only need to remember that you are allowed to rest it. And if this video gave you even one quiet moment where you didn't know who you were, then it has done exactly what it was meant to do. Thank you for being here.